But the first time I saw Fabrio's bank account with the money in there from our first investor, I think at the time it was like 150 or 130,000 pounds. And to me, that was a huge amount of money that I've never seen in my entire life.
Good morning. As you can tell, we're in London today, sleeping on a friend's sofa. That's because we have a meeting with a potential investor today in Waterloo in London. This is life of a startup founder. You sleep wherever you can, and I'm very grateful for all my friends helping me as I grow Fabrio without having to live in a hotel. In this video, I'm going to go through how to get your first investor and the different types of investing you can get for your startup. I am just walking to a tube station now. I'm heading to Waterloo to meet Annie. Annie is my co-founder, for those of you who don't know. And basically we're just going to prep before the meeting. This is our second round of investment. This investor we are meeting in person today. We've been speaking to them for the past couple of months now, and today is more of like a formality, just to meet them face to face, shake their hands, and essentially discuss the terms of the deal we're currently closing. But for this video, I just want to go through the steps of how you can find your first investor, and how for a startup, it's really tough to find people to give you money.
Because look, right, because I knew this was a concern, so I opened up what we said that we can do with 300k, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Who we hiring?
So we're actually a few months down the line from my trip to London, and we have received that investment from the investor. Woo. So let me break it down. For Fabrio, we started around about June in the summer, and we closed our first round of investment around about March the following year. So why do startups actually need that money? Why did we feel like we needed that money? Well, many startups start, like us, bootstrap until the point where they've got enough traction to go and prove to an investor that they've got paying customers to generate so much more money and they have so much more potential. And the only limiting factor is the money. Investors love to invest in companies that don't need money. And that sounds really weird, but the best companies are the ones that don't actually need that capital to grow. The reason we decided to raise money was because we realized that we weren't growing quickly enough because we didn't have the software development team to build the product fast enough for our customers. So how did we know if we were ready to raise? At that point, we needed to identify if we had enough traction, if we have any paying customers, what did the founding team look like at that point, and then essentially what our growth plan was. Where was our product at? How was it developing? Were we getting more customers month on month? And so with that to hand, we started to analyze what would be a good fit for us. To break down investment, at such an early stage, there are three different types of investors you could probably go for. There's your angel investment, there are your pre-seed funds, and then your accelerator programs. Now, your angel investors are high net worth individuals, people with a lot of money, and they can deploy cash quickly and easily. So angel investors typically tend to invest anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20,000 pounds into your company. And then you've got the second option of pre-seed investors. Now, these are people who are dedicated investors to early stage startups, and they're taking a huge risk and a huge gamble by investing on early stage startups, but they go off their gut and they invest in the founding team rather than the idea itself. And I'll get onto why in a second. Finally, you've got the accelerator option. Now, accelerators are essentially like schools for startups. There's a really famous one that I go on about all the time called Y Combinator. Now, Y Combinator companies, some of the most successful ones are companies like Airbnb, Twitch, and Stripe, and some other great companies that all went through Y Combinator. And essentially, in that accelerator program, the accelerator takes a small bit of equity and they give cash in return, but also they have you for 3 months, come to their offices, learn from the best, learn from the mentors, and speak to other startups, and essentially go through the startup journey with them at such a young stage. So taking you back to the story of Fabrio. In June, we had started building. June is also the summer holidays in the UK, so we knew that we couldn't get any customers on until September time. End of March was the deadline to see if we were going to park Fabrio and maybe look at something else. And now I appreciate that's a long timeline, but we were pretty confident in the idea. So doors opened for schools in September, with a product ready in hand. We were knocking on every single door, trying to build up as much traction as possible to then, at the end of the year, around December time, start approaching investors. With about 100 schools and no paying customers at this point, we started in December to reach out to investors. And now identifying that the 3 angel, pre-seed, or accelerators, we applied and spoke to as many as we could. And if I was to do this again, I wouldn't do that in the same way. But essentially, we carpet bombed every investor we could find through an email list, and angels we connected with on LinkedIn, and accelerator programs. My co-founder Annie has been burnt by the number of times he applied for grants and accelerator programs. And of course, we had investment conversations, we had meetings and follow-ups. So our current investor, we actually met them in December, and they made their decision around about mid-January time. So we got in touch with all of these investors. There are loads of resources online to find them. So for example, with angel investors, we went through lists and databases online. And I'll link some in the comments below that I use to essentially find angels who had invested in similar verticals to Fabrio. People who invested in education companies before, engineering companies before, or young entrepreneurs, or British Asian entrepreneurs. Anything that we could find with a link, once we found that link, I would reach out to them on LinkedIn, or I would find their email and reach out to them via email and chase them. So fast forward, we had got the yes from the pre-seed investor, and that was great. And we could go and deploy the capital into the areas that I focused on before. So what would it look like for you? If you're a young co-founder and you're raising for the first time, you've got a little bit of traction, you've proved that people want your product and people are using your product. So how would that work for you? Here's one of the things I would not do again. I would not email every single investor. The first thing I would do is create a list of people who have invested in similar companies like mine before. Maybe it's the same space like education, or they're a VC company who particularly invest in females, or they're a VC fund that invests in space or biotech or something relating your specific niche. Now, once you've done that, you stand a much higher chance of getting a successful meeting with them because they're already interested in people like you. There's no point me, as a founder of an edtech company, trying to reach out to a VC company that only invests in biotech startups. It's a complete waste of my time for writing that email, applying for the fund, and it's a complete waste of their time for reading that. And then if you have a meeting, then I don't know what's going on. And the story of the second round of funding is why I was in London. It was no easier than the first, and there was a whole lot more pressure. Because the first round of funding, we had no money already, so there was nothing to lose. Secondly, we had already decided that if this doesn't work out by March, we're going to kill the company and we're going to try something different, or we're going to pivot, or what. And then thirdly, it was still an idea and we were still at university. Coming to our second round of funding, we were running out of money quick, and we realized, oh no, we're paying ourselves now. Not a lot, but we're paying ourselves. But also, we realized that actually we're paying an entire team of people here who rely on us for a monthly income. We need to make sure that we're securing this investment we've got secured, to not only secure this investment and support our current team, but grow the company and bring more people in so we can continue to grow. Reaching out to angels and investors specifically is quite difficult, especially because they have so many inbound messages from other startups trying to raise money. So what do you need to do to make yourself stand out? The one way around it is make sure that you do your research on the investors. Build up a really strong email list, build up a really strong angel list and investor list. People you know invested in similar companies to you in the past, or have a particular niche that they're focused on that you fit well with them. Some of the ways that you can research this is using websites like Crunchbase. The number of times I've signed up for a free trial and never paid for it, I can't even count, to get that list of investors, or things like Angel and Co, or like other databases online. I'll link some links below. LinkedIn is another great tool that you can use to find angel investors. They normally have it in their bio as well. The second common mistake that I see with founders trying to raise investment, and again, something we did, was not following up with investors. An angel investor or a fund may get hundreds of emails a day or messages from other startups trying to raise investment. When you look at a typical VC in the UK, they may only invest in 6 to 7 startups each year. And now this makes it incredibly difficult for you to break through the noise of other startups trying to pitch for this investment. That VC fund has probably got thousands of companies coming to them for investment, and they only choose 6 or 7. So how do you make yourself stand out? One of the things mistake we made was we only messaged once, or we only applied once, and we didn't apply again and again. Until you get that no, until you get that not interested or any response back for them, then I would say to reach out to them and continue your follow-ups, continue reaching out to their network. If you're struggling to reach out to people and actually get any response from anyone and figure out why they're not interested in speaking to you, the strongest way of reaching out to people comes from warm introductions. And these might be introductions from other investors or other founders or advisors who think that you'd be a good fit for this investment portfolio. Through warm intros, you're automatically getting introduced to, maybe it's an angel, maybe it's pre-seed fund. You're getting introduced from a trusted source. So say, for example, there's a pre-seed fund that you really want to be involved with or speaking to, and you get introduced by, maybe it's a previous investor or a founder that you've spoken to and worked with, and that founder has been invested by that company, by that fund before. And that fund will then see, oh, Bob has introduced Jay to me. That means that Bob thinks Jay is great. Let me speak to Jay. Rather than me approaching that fund directly and saying, I think I'm great, you should speak to me. It gives that fund more validation on you as a company because someone else believes in you. Now, that might not be the case where you always have someone who can introduce you, but what you could do, something that I did in my case, was I actually reached out to a founder who I'd never met before, I hadn't spoken to before, but I knew he had received investment from a particular angel that I wanted investment from. And so I reached out to the founder and I said, hi, I think what you're building is absolutely great. I've noticed that you've been invested by XYZ person. I'm a young founder, I'm an entrepreneur, it's my first time raising. I'd really appreciate if you could help me by a warm intro. And it worked. He went and gave me that introduction. People are willing to help, and other founders will help other founders. So if anyone wants introductions from me, reach out to me and I'll see what I can do about it. So after your pre-seed round, after that initial amount of money comes into your bank account, you're most likely going to your seed, Series A, Series B, Series C, Series D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P, everything. There's multiple rounds, and each of the rounds will most likely go up in valuation. It should do, and the amount of funding as well. So typically Series A rounds raise anywhere between like 5 to about 15 million US dollars. To think about how much money you need, I'll tell you how we did it at Fabrio. We looked at the cost of employing ourselves as co-founders, as well as the cost of employing 3 other people. So that's the important thing. So obviously our runway will be a lot longer than that, but that was what we were thinking. How much money do we need to completely run with this idea for the next 12 months without making a single penny? And this is what we needed. So at the end of the day, you need to remember that it's your business. You're going to make the decisions. You're going to make your own mistakes. You need to decide how much equity you want to give up, how much runway do you need, therefore determining how much money you want to take in. So I'm going to wrap this video up here because I can talk about investment and raising investment for hours, and there's so many different ways of doing it and there's not one right way. I'll do another video in the future if people want to listen to it on the other aspects of raising investment, the processes and like maybe the legals, the financials that we went through and we created. But with that, thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was chopped up and I appreciate that you're sticking with me whilst I am trying this whole new YouTube thing. Please leave your feedback and comments below, and I will see you on the next video.